Everybody, Andrew Cuneo here. Today it's time to see what Lord of the Rings cards belong in Tainted Pact in Historic. So one obvious one to try is the One Ring. I've swapped the Memory Deluge that I had been playing for the One Ring. I moved it into the sideboard, which we'll get into in a second. Also playing Sauron's Ransom. I think this is a good card drawing effect for a deck like Tainted Pact where you don't necessarily care that much about raw cards, but you're oftentimes digging for a very specific card that's either Tainted Pact or Jace. And when you cast this, you know which one you need. So if the card you need isn't in the face up pile, you can just take the face down pile and hope it's there. Okay, I don't think you're going to wind up tricking yourself that much by taking the wrong pile. So this is, it's 3 mana. Get to look, well, you don't look at 4 cards, but you go through 4 cards and you get to keep 2 of them. So it's perhaps a little bit closer to an impulse than a card drawing spell, or it's between an impulse and a divination. Also, there are a few creatures in this deck, so you could maybe do something with the Ring Tempts You. I'm sure if I played hundreds of games, eventually I would turn Laelia into the Ring Bearer, which would make it unblockable, and I'd kill my opponent with Laelia plus Tainted Pact. Probably not going to come up all that often, though. Then in the sideboard, I've got 1 copy of Cast into the Fire. This is just to have more anti-artifact cards. Also, this is nice because it does double duty, where if you play against like a deck that's just got 10 Llanowar Elves in it, you can board it in to pick off 2 Llanowar Elves, or against Esper Sentinel decks, if somebody's playing like Esper Sentinel plus Thalia, it's probably going to cost you 3 mana to kill them both, and they're going to get to draw a card, but it's a deal you're going to accept. Also, this is a way to get the One Ring off the board if you care about that, which typically the way this deck plays out, I would not be boarding in things just to get the One Ring off the board, but if it's going to be in your deck anyway, you might want to use it to do that. And then Orcish Bowmasters. This is another card that I think kind of does double duty, where it's good against Esper Sentinel style decks. It's also, I think, a card you can board in against like any sort of blue-white Teferi Hero of Dominaria deck. Although I thought Teferi Hero of Dominaria decks were pretty underpowered before Lord of the Rings, and now I think they're really just completely unplayable, because it's not just, they were struggling to beat Crucius decks before, and now that those decks are going to have Orcish Bowmasters, which Bowmasters is pretty good against 5 mana sorcery speed thing that primarily just draws you an extra card. So that's a big problem for blue-white. Also, just the printing of the One Ring, like, you don't need to put a card like Teferi Hero of Dominaria in your deck to get sort of a mid-range card drawing kind of engine. You can just play the One Ring instead. So those are the 4 additions that I've made to the deck. I think I cut Shark Typhoon and Brazen Borrowers, and there must have been one other card I cut, which I don't remember immediately. It's not particularly important. It's a card I'm not playing with. We know that much. All right, so the other thing that's going on with the video today is I'm going to try to see if I can actually get to number 1 on the ladder. As we can see, I'm currently sitting at number 2 on the ladder. I think I just got to 2 off of my last win, so it'd be nice if there was some information available to you about how many more wins you need to get before you can get to number 1, or how far away you are. Because it could be a little, it could be a lot. There's really no way to know. But we'll see. If I can go on a hot streak, might be able to get there. Probably I'm not going to be able to get there. I don't think that this deck I'm playing is actually a particularly good deck to play to try to get to the top of the ladder, just because I don't think Historic's the right format to do it in. You play against too many hard matchups that it's too hard for people to screw up. I think if you want to actually get number 1 on the ladder, you should probably just play Alchemy. Which is kind of sad. That said, I have no idea why I'm getting You would think Historic is popular enough they could find a mythic opponent for me, or at least an opponent who didn't put Jakob Hauken in Spectre. Well, this isn't going to go well for you, my friend. I have Narset in play. I mean, you're building up cards on your face down Jakob Hauken and pile, I guess. But you're not going to see that one again for a while. Oracle of the Alpha. The card that everybody who wants to have a bad deck loves to play. I want to force them to attack the Narset twice. Hope they have Ancestral Recall in their hand. Do I want a Crucius? Yeah, I think the game might last long enough that it'll be good. Otawara. Certainly don't need all these lands. Goodbye. I'm feeling ambitious. Holy cow. Did a card that's restricted in Vintage. Mind Flare. Oh my gosh. Okay. More scrying to the top. Did they not even use the Crucius? I think they didn't use Crucius. Unusual. I played my land before attacking. That way I have access to Archmage's Charm, and I can also potentially censor without having to sack my treasure. Means if I hit a land off of Laelia, I'll be a little sad, but I won't be down a spell, I'll just be down a card. So Laelia hit another permission spell. Laelia hasn't been great this game. Feeling ambitious. There we go. We're going to get to see what they stored under Jakob Hauken. Right, they didn't. They're just using it as a looter. They didn't flip it. Please stop trying to steal my Crucius. If you wanted to play Crucius, you could just play red-black. Signs point to it's not looking good for you, opponent. All right, I've got a good sideboard against the mono blue deck. I've got Lithimantic Barrage, Rending Volley, Mystical Dispute. Probably don't need Soul Guide Lantern. Languish. Fatal Push, I guess. Probably everything else is fine. Maybe not Prismari Command. What could I have instead of Prismari Command? Negate, Abrade, probably just Memory Deluge. They've foretold something. It could be Auron's Epiphany, although that's nerfed in this format, so it wouldn't be very good. Oh no. Filling the deck with bad cards. The weirdest thing is they're playing like 70 some odd cards, so it's not even like they're excited about the idea of getting these restricted cards. Their deck is thick with Moxes now. Very thick with Moxes. Do I care about attacking? What happens if they play Mind Flayer and takes Wielder? Let's find out. Okay, Black Lotus. Auron's Epiphany. Saw that one coming. Oh man, if they scry into Time Walk now, it still probably wouldn't help them all that much. They did scry into Time Walk. Is it going to be another Time Walk? It's a Mox Ruby. And a Cosmos Elixir. Okay. See what you're working with over there. I don't think I'm going to play Laelia this turn. I'd like to find a permission spell. Nope. I'm going to pitch Laelia and name Ambitious, which gives me a pretty good shot at finding a Jace. It worked. So I've got Rending Volley if I need to take out like a Mind Flayer. I could also, if it was an absolute emergency, I could have maybe Tainted Pact Get for Archmage's Charm to counter something. I guess there's no way out of it. I'm going to have to do the whole combo. So I don't think I can kill them on my turn without doing it. I don't have enough damage through all these Cosmos Elixirs. That's the buffed form of Cosmos Elixir, in case you're curious. They have the nerfed Auron's Epiphany and the buffed Cosmos Elixir. How bad would Oracle of the Alpha be in my deck? It would be shuffling in all those extra cards to have to click through at this point. It would be horrible. Did we get rank 1? No, we're rank 2. I'm up against a Yorion gamer, right? This person has a reason at least to have more than 60 cards. Is the good reason? Probably not. But we'll find out. It's just going to be an enigmatic incarnation deck. That's my prediction. Snow-covered forest, snow-covered island. Explore. I don't know what this is. Snow-covered swamp. It's a snow-covered theme deck. I hope it's a Tom Bombadil deck. I wanted to build a Tom Bombadil deck. I looked and the cards are just too bad. Probably could have afforded to just scry there. I really think I'm going to draw 4 times off of this game. Probably not. But it seems like my opponent's not going to do anything. Maybe they are. What are they doing? Binding the Old Gods. All right. This puts the land into play tapped, right? Yeah. All right, so they do have Yorion, which can blink the Binding of the Old Gods, but they didn't play a land on their turn 3, so they don't have very many shots at having... And if I did, I would be saying lesser if I ditched that. Let's ditch this and say... let's ditch this and say ambitious. They don't have very many shots at island, or maybe they have planes in their deck too. To flicker the binding to kill my Crucius. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. We have Temur lands now. And double black. And ooh, Jawari Ruins coming into play tapped. What else you got going on over there? Pelucranos and a Yorion. And some pretty useless removal. I guess if I draw my Laelia, it's going to die. Asika's Chariot. That will be earning a languish from me. Never mind. Leave a comment if you're somebody who watches the videos at normal speed but speeds them up when we get to this part. You could also leave a comment if you're somebody who just watches them at faster speeds all the time. At this point, I think my channel may have hours of me just doing this. I like this deck, though. Doesn't really get boring to play it over and over. So I guess my opponent is playing like a Sultai Ultimatum deck from Standard. That seems to be what's going on. I guess I'll play Mystical Dispute. Duress. Do I want Miscast? I don't know if I want Miscast. Should we delve that deep? Maybe not to start. They did have Pelucranos. So I might want to Soul Guide Lantern that. I don't think I want Bloodchief's Thirst. I generally don't like having Prismari Command in my deck if it doesn't have anything to target as like 1-for-1 removal. I suspect this is not a good matchup for Sheoldred. It's been a while since I had sideboarding configurations where I was going this thin on ways to win in the sideboarding games. Maybe that'll matter. Probably it won't. I'm not sure about the One Ring. It is annoying that it puts me on a clock because I don't have... The only way that I can reset it or get it off the board is with Otawara, I believe. Or like I could board in... what's it called? Cast into the fire to destroy my own One Ring, which I'm not going to do that when I have only a singleton copy of the One Ring in my deck. But this is the kind of deck where, you know, it puts you on a clock, but this deck, if you can just get the right hand and access to 6 mana, you can just win from, you know, from no board, which is the logic behind playing this card. This isn't a pure control deck. It's a deck that's capable of winning if it just sees enough cards. Obviously, if you have more than 6 mana, you can, you know, do things to protect your combo as you're winning. Do I want to stop this? Yeah, I think so. Just slow them down. The other way I have to control the One Ring in my main deck configuration is the Sheoldred. But I boarded that out here because it seemed like they had a lot of black removal. Bajuka Bog. Why did they bog themselves? Oh, they bogged themselves because of the One Ring. Makes sense. Please give me a land. This is the original version of it, so it's crew 4. Like, I don't know that I'm going to draw with this again in this game. I'm probably not going to do it right away if I do it. I'm going to cast my Archmage's Charm. Should I counter this, draw 2, or steal their cat? I think I'm going to steal their cat. It preserves my life total, which means I can be greedier with the One Ring. It also means that they don't have a blocker for Laelia, which obviously Laelia can be big enough to attack through a single cat, but I can't one-shot them if they chump. Binding of the Old Gods, the cat. Okay. Let's see how you roll, opponent. They did not get Yorion into their hand. Let's see if I just draw into Tainted Pact. I did not. Probably the top card of my deck is going to be Tainted Pact. Let's find out. It was not. So if I don't use the One Ring again, I get 4 more turns. If I do, I get 3. Let's start out by seeing what Expressive Iteration has to say about anything. It's possible I wanted to rest them, I guess. It is possible. They are an Emergent Ultimatum deck. Oh, and I found my Otawara as well. Hopefully they didn't draw an untapped land, and I get to dispute the Yorion. Oh, no, wait. I get to dispute the Yorion either way. It doesn't matter what they do. Oh, come on. I was going to Otawara the One Ring. You didn't want to even see if you could beat the One Ring? All right, is this the match? The match to get to rank 1? Probably not. This is also probably going to be a more competitive match. My opponent's at least playing the right colors. All right, I'm going to censor their Crucius and untap and play my Crucius. That's the plan. Let's execute on this plan. Not a Crucius. I still want to play Crucius. I'm just trying to figure out what to discard. And the casting costs are kind of awkward because obviously, ideally, I hit Tainted Pact. But to get that, I have to either pitch a land or pitch Laelia. I don't think I want to pitch either of those. Actually, I guess my best option is pitch Sulfurous Springs and say Ambitious. This can go bad, though. Because it's not like I'm really expecting this Crucius to live. Okay. At least I had to spend 2 mana to kill it, so they couldn't play another 3-drop. It out of these red-black decks, it's really the 3-drops that are where all their power comes from. Come on, Laelia, find me a land. Still looking for a land. There we go. And my Drowned in the Loch is pretty powered up, right? 4. Can I? Yeah, that works. One time could I please hit Tainted Pact? A failure. So they can 7-ball me if they animate the Bugbear. I'm just going to play Narset. Force them to either give me a free card or send an attack Narset's way. Wielder. Not loving that. If I let myself go down to 7, I can die to Bugbear plus Blood Tithe Harvester. I think this is the best way to do it. And I think if I don't see a card that kills the Wielder, and I'm just going to take the face down pile. I probably lose now. At least I force them to block. Maybe they won't block. Okay. My opponent obviously didn't understand how this works. Or they just wanted to give me one. Have I clicked enough yet? This is probably enough. So I was going to say that I don't think it's worth not playing Gigantha just so you can play Seasoned Pyromancer, but I do think playing Wielder is important enough, so that makes sense. So my sideboard plan for this matchup is to board in Memory Deluge and a Braid, and I like cutting Spell Pierce and Bloodchief's Thirst. I don't really like playing situational counters like Spell Pierce against the deck where they have a lot of creatures and they have a ton of ways to see your hand. So it's really hard to get them good with Spell Pierce when they're probably going to have 8 to 10 discard spells. And if they care about the Spell Pierce, they can just take it. And then Bloodchief there just isn't a very efficient removal spell against anything except for the Blood Tithe Harvesters, which I don't care about that much. It might be nice to have a card I could board in over Prismari Command, but I don't really have that right now. No black mana, but I do have Crucius, which will be nice when I get the black mana. No, I have black mana. I don't know about playing with Barrider. It seems bad to put that comes into play tapped land in your deck that's full, should be full of Thoughtseizes at least. Maybe their deck is not as full of Thoughtseizes as I think it should be. There's no way they're playing around Censor, right? Maybe they don't understand that my deck is Singleton. And they are actually playing around Censor. So my plan is to let this hit me, and I'm either going to play Censor or a Braid. And if I play a Braid, I'll probably cycle Censor. I think I'm going to be tapping out for the most part from here on out. I don't think I want to just jam the One Ring this turn. There's a chance the Crucius dies. But the One Ring is best in this matchup if it's preventing some damage the turn it comes into play. We're definitely going to need to use it to draw some cards. Does Barrier trigger when they kill my creatures as well? Yes. Come on, Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Hit me with that Hive. Considering it, they're doing it. What is in their hand? How's their hand this bad? This is a hand they kept. They looted once. I don't really understand what's going on over there. I'm going to play this land in case my top card is Tainted Pact. If it's another... I was going to say, if it's just another land, like, I don't really need land 8. So it's not a big loss if I wind up missing a land drop, and it's that upside that I just hit. Yes, I'm going to lead on Thoughtseize. What are they working with over here? It's an Atraxa deck. We'll definitely take Fable. Always get Fragment Reality can hit artifacts, enchantments, and creatures, but not planeswalkers. So if I keep this and it gets fragmented, I'm going to get a Snapcaster Mage that I can't do anything with. That doesn't seem worthwhile. It's pretty likely the Fragment's just going to be a useless card. I could draw Mazemind Tome and they'd be able to fragment it, or if the game goes super long, they could maybe fragment Hall of Storm Giants. But for the most part, it's not going to be a useful card for them. Wonder why they... I guess they're thinking that like the Archmage's Charm is going to counter something that they try to do. They're going to cycle Savoy Triome, it looks like. Definitely want to mill myself against a reanimation deck. I generally mill myself anyway because you can hit... what's it called? Cling to Dust. Cling to Darkness. Cling to something. All right, so this is actually like mildly important. If their unknown card is Sheoldred's Edict, which probably it isn't, it gives me a measure of safety to play the Soul Guide Lantern first, because what's going to happen, I'm going to Jace target myself. In response, Tainted Pact. Now my opponent has a choice. They could play their Sheoldred's Edict now, at which point I'll know not to Tainted Pact away my whole deck. Or if they wait until I've exiled my whole deck, then if they go to Sheoldred's Edict, I will crack the Soul Guide Lantern in response and win. This is why this is one of the reasons I always go into full control mode, is just it's a good habit for when the situation arises where it's actually relevant. The other reason is that if you get timed out by Arena, it's going to choose decline always. So this way, like if I got disconnected, I've got like the whole win queued up. That used to matter when, I would play in matches for actual prize money where it mattered if you lost when you got disconnected or if your deck would just win. So they're, I think, feeling sad for themselves that they took Jace over Archmage's Charm. If you haven't already, you should be fast forwarding right now. So in order for the play that I mentioned to work with the Soul Guide Lantern, you have to get rid of your entire deck. You can't, see the bottom card and be like, oh, I like that one, I'll put that one in my hand. Well, I guess you can do it with the bottom card. You can't do it 2 from the bottom or 3 from the bottom. So Reanimation. They're definitely going to have Crucius, so I'm going to board in a Braid. I think I actually want Davriel's Withering against the Priest of the Fellrights, because it kills both halves. And I think I want Memory Deluge. Against the Reanimation deck, I'm going to take Languish out of my deck. It's less likely to be the case that we're going to wind up in a board where I'm like killing, Crucius plus some other like Seasoned Pyromancer things. They might have Seasoned Pyromancer in their deck too, but the point is that they've got Atraxit in their deck, and some of the time they're going to have Atraxit in play, and I don't want to have a removal spell that doesn't deal with it. I think other than that, we're going to just board like that. I used to have so much more graveyard hate in my sideboard, but that was when Phoenix was good. We have a ring, one of them at least. I guess I survived being Thoughtseize last game. I was just thinking, for playing a bunch of matches of Historic in a row, I really haven't had to discard all that many cards. It's actually good. It's going to arrive right in time to pick off a 3-drop. So I can only counter 2 drops right now. I'm still going to let this hit mana. I think I'm just going to impulse for a land. Yeah. I should have left my black mana untapped. This is 5 mana to do. So they can't get Atraxa this turn. I think they're maybe playing around a second Censor. I like when people do stuff like that. Position plus a braid. I lose life to do them. Or take 5, go down to 4. Play Memory Deluge, and then I play the One Ring. Yeah, I think this is a plan on fogging with the One Ring next turn plays. You can get to see a decent number of cards, but the problem is I don't have Jace or Tainted Pact yet. And my deck is still pretty substantial. I understand you're trying to reanimate the Atraxa. I get it. The other problem with this is that, well, another problem with this is that whatever cards they've boarded in that interact with my combo, they're probably going to have them in their hand at this point. What do they get? Braid, another Atraxa, Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle doesn't actually do anything. Oh, they can Pithing Needle the One Ring. That would actually do something. I doubt they're going to do that, but they could. Put me to 3. That's fine. Is there a reason they've been leaving a mana untapped? It might just be for the blood, actually. That's not a terrible reason. Hooligan's Command. I've gotten pretty lucky at other points so far today. I'm really going to need it this time. So I'm going to get to see 4 cards, and I need Pact plus Jace in my top 4. And actually, because of the needle, I can get around the needle by drawing with the One Ring, but that means that I can't use the One Ring to draw into the Jace. I think I can't win now. Shieldred. I can just fragment the Shieldred though. And I still wouldn't I'd have to deal with the Atraxa and then I would still be dead. Come on, good cards. Seems all right. What am I going to have to discard today? Oh, it's only Inquisition. They took opt. They opted for the opt when given the option. I think that they, well, I guess the needle on Jace does actually stop me from just casting it and using it to draw cards, so I am actually going to destroy the needle. Because my plan is to just play it on turn 4. And start drawing out of all this discard. Ooh, they don't have a red mana. That's good for me. I don't have a black mana. Well, I sort of do. I have it on layaway. Got a braid down there and an opt. So the discard has a cost, and this gets used as a sorcery. I think it doesn't matter, though. I think I'm just Snapcaster Prismari commanding and double looting. So I was checking to see if it was discard as a cost and used as a sorcery because I wanted to see if they pitched an Atraxa to the, what's this thing called? Phyrexian Scrapyard. If I would have a chance to respond before it would get reanimated, and I would. But I decided it wasn't even worth messing around with. Is this going to be the one? The match to get to rank 1. I hope so. It's almost always right to shock. Into play, to get a land into play over Sulfurous Springs. I guess if they don't draw a land, I will play Painful Bond. It is going to be a Painful Bond. It'll deal probably 4 damage to me on average. But I'm going to play Censor instead now. I don't think it matters what I take there. I guess it matters a little bit because I have Cling to Darkness, I can never remember if it's Cling to Darkness or Cling to Dust. And I'd rather cling a non-creature card out of their graveyard because it makes my Drown in the Loch better. But I don't have any of those cards, so it's really unlikely to come up. All right, we're going to want some spells. That's good enough. And I assume I'm going to crack Soul Guide Lantern, but we'll see. The only reason to do it now would be if I was going to also opt immediately, hoping to hit Fatal Push or Bloodchief's Thirst. And I don't think I'm going to do that. I maybe could have done that. I wasn't thinking that I had Watery Grave. I was thinking I definitely want to have access to Spell Pierce just in case they draw like another Karn or whatever that 3-mana untapped Planeswalker is called. Alright, that's not the worst. Why are they getting priority? It's just because they have Lair of the Hydra, probably. This is a lot of games in a row that I haven't even played, like a Gamble Tainted Pact line where you Tainted Pact for something that isn't just get rid of your deck or Jace. So this is just mono green. Against mono green, definitely want to cast into fire. Into the fire. This is like the perfect matchup for it. It kills elves and it kills all the things they get with Karn. You want to braid for kind of the same reason. Soul Guide Lantern does a tiny bit, but I don't think it's worth it generally. I kind of like Davriel's Withering, actually. Do I want Negate? Maybe. I think between Languish and Shieldred, I want one, but not the other. I think I'm going to go with the no Shieldred plan. I'm going to cut Laelia here, just because it's pretty hard for it to get through. And I think we'll cut Narset. It's a pretty good starting hand for this matchup. Ooh, they mulled the 5. And they played this thing, which is going to be useless because I'm going to kill all of their mana elves. And my draw is perfect. My deck, it wants to win. It's telling me win. I don't like that they're going to get to hit me for 4 here. Is there even a card they could have? I don't think Beast Within is on Arena. I'm not playing around, whatever it is. It's going to be a learning experience or a victory. I'm fully committed. I don't think they had Beast Within. Still number 2, but I think that that is going to be it for this video. This is the struggles of somebody trying to reach number 1 on the ladder. A lot of times your rank doesn't change. I didn't edit out any matches, so this was, I think, 5 wins in a row at rank 2, which it could easily take like another 5 more. There's no way to know. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, sub to the channel, and I'll see you next time. So I'd given up on the idea of reaching number 1 just because I had no idea how many more matches I was going to have to win, but I decided to play 1 more match, but I was recording it, but I wasn't doing audio. So you're going to get a voiceover after the fact here. So I'm playing against some sort of blue-black deck. And pretty good hand. I'm probably going to try to set up here to just jam Narset on turn 3 when my opponent only has 2 mana, because most of the time people, if they play a 2 mana counter in Historic, they're going to play Change the Equation, which isn't going to be able to stop Narset. I have a real choice here between going Narset or just Inquisition Mazemind Tome, but I figured Inquisition Mazemind Tome would be better next turn, because that might be a spot where I'm more interested in staying untapped. And again, I don't really expect them to be able to counter the Narset. I'm not thinking about Orcish Bowmasters when I do this, and I get absolutely obliterated. So I take Go for the Throat because I actually just want to kill the Bowmasters. They're pretty annoying to be in play with my deck. And from here, let's see what they're up to. The Archmage's Charm in response rather than counter it, which is usually a pretty good play. Turns out they have double Jwari Disruption, so they probably could have countered the Narset if they had had to. Obviously, it turned out they didn't want to. I'm just going to go ahead and go for the Throat the Bowmasters while I have the option to. My opponent's hand is pretty bad, although they just drew Inquisition, which is a problem. And they've got this Jwari Disruption, which is pretty annoying because it means I can't just top deck a land and play Jace. I have no idea why they're playing with Feed the Swarm in their deck. That's a mystery to me. Really just want to make a land drop here because I want to be able to play Jace through Jwari Disruption as soon as possible. Sadly, I draw Shieldred, which is useless. And now they have a Shieldred of their own in play. Finally have red mana, but it's looking like it's probably going to be too late. They did play their Jwari Disruption, which makes sense because they have a Hall of Storm Giants that they want to be able to attack with. So I'm trying to set up a situation here where I can get the treasure and then change the equation to Feed the Swarm. And then keep the Crucius in play and play a Shieldred to just offset their shield, right? Either by trading or just the triggers are going to offset each other. And that basically means I'm dead. I can play a Wielder, but they have enough mana they can just animate Hall of Storm Giants and I'll die. 10 Alpha Strike. So sideboarding against like blue-black control. Generally like boarding and more card drawing. Orcish Bowmasters to offset their Orcish Bowmasters. Duress makes sense. Mystical Dispute, obviously. None of this other stuff seems all that appealing. Definitely don't want Languish. Bloodchief's Thirst and Fatal Push are like, they can kill the Bowmaster, but that's about it, and their sorcery speed. And Prismari Command, 3 mana to kill a Bowmaster is not what I want. And we're back. Pretty good hand. Obviously I need black mana, but I've got a lot of ways to go look for it. Or I can just draw it off the top of my deck. I am pretty concerned that they're just going to play a Bowmaster at some point here. I think if they had just cast Bowmasters, it would be really bad for me there. So I've got Jace Tainted Pact, which is pretty nice, but they are playing some sort of reactive blue-black deck, so I don't want to just jam it into their untapped mana. So let's see how the game develops from here. Turns out they have Kaleem, the Djinn Emperor, in their deck. That's not really a very scary card for Tainted Pact. And Inquisition. I can't stop this with Censor, so they can break up Tainted Pact Jace if they want. They're really going in the tank here. They wind up taking Seek New Knowledge, which is confusing to me. I take that as a sign that they're trying to bait me into playing Tainted Pact, so I don't go for it. I just leave Censor up. I may have been mind-gamed there. I get to Censor a Bowmaster, which is pretty nice. They yet again have a chance to break up Tainted Pact Jace. A little bit worried about Bowmasters here. I decided to just opt. I mean, it's better to opt in general before you play Painful Bond, just because you end up losing less life overall when you do that. All right, let's see if the coast is clear from all these Bowmasters. I think I'm expecting that. I think that they're tanking on an Archmage's Charm now. It's a Dream Fracture, which is pretty weird. I guess that synergizes with Bowmasters is the idea. You force your opponent to draw a card, so you trigger your Bowmasters. I'm going to go ahead and Painful Bond while they're tapped out. I didn't want to play Consider first, just because I wanted to potentially have 2 mana available to me, which works out because I draw Go for the Throat. So now I'm not afraid of like a Shieldred. I don't know why I didn't play Consider into turn there. Turns out they also have Yuta Takahashi in their deck. So their deck is like a try to make your opponent draw cards theme deck, which is kind of a weird theme. But it's sort of working for them. So at this point, I've got a mana advantage on them. And I've drawn Cling to Dust here, so I'm not too worried about the Kaleems. Honestly, the Kaleems are just going to wind up taxing their mana, because they don't have enough mana to effectively cycle them for free. They draw in response to Thoughtseize. Pretty reasonable play. I decided to Cling in response just in case I draw into like Spell Pierce. So their hand is a bunch of Dream Fractures, a Liliana, like a 6-mana Liliana, which that's not a good card. And all these Dream Fractures. So now I've got a choice between playing the One Ring and Mazemind Tome. I decided to go for Mazemind Tome. That's maybe a little bit on the cowardly side. But I didn't want to put myself on a clock by just playing the One Ring. A little bit lucky here that they didn't just draw a Kaleem and immediately Kaleem, because I think they've got 1 in the yard at this point, and they've got 1 in hand, so if they just find it like 1 more, and they'll have a 5/6 in play, and then I'll actually be under a lot of pressure to win through all these Dream Fractures. So I've given them access to potentially drawing another Kaleem. I guess I wasn't super worried about it. And we get to see if they're scared of the Tainted Pact or they're concerned I'm going to Spell Pierce out on One Ring. They also have that awful 6-mana Planeswalker in their hand they might be trying to resolve. Are they taking the One Ring too? They've taken it all. All right. Here I decide that I just want to make sure they don't get Kaleem going, because I do have a pretty large graveyard with this Cling to Dust, so I'm going to be able to get some extra cards off of it. I'm trying to be a little bit careful to leave myself good Snapcaster and Takenuma targets. Does matter a little bit. I don't duress them here because I think if I duress them, they might just Dream Fracture it. And I don't, like, that's a spot where they really want to spend 3 mana on Dream Fracture. There's no reason to make it easy on my opponent. I've kind of adopted the philosophy at this point that if they just top deck a Bowmasters at some point, it's just going to be a problem. So here I go ahead and duress, because if they Dream Fracture the duress, I'm just going to cast a Narset. And this is a pretty easy choice. Obviously, I'm not going to take one of their 2 copies of Liliana Dreadhorde General. But then I also don't want to just play into their Dream Fracture, so I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do anything. I guess I'm about to play Otawara, maybe? And I find Hall of the Storm Giants, which is great against their hand of sorcery speed cards and counters. See if they want to counter Sauron's Ransom. So I've got, it's probably 3 lands face down, and it turns out it is. I went for the lands just because I want to have enough mana that I can just be attacking comfortably with Hall of Storm Giants each turn. And I might want to also be able to cast a spell, and using Otawara on their Sheoldred's potentially going to be a good play at some point. If I cast the Laelia, they're definitely just going to Dream Fracture it, and then if I don't have anything else good to follow up on my turn, they're just going to untap and play Liliana Dreadhorde General, because their hand doesn't do anything else, and then it's not clear that I'm going to win from that spot. I mean, they could have definitely just tapped out for their Liliana Dreadhorde General and hoped it was going to be good enough. Had they done that, I probably would have Tainted Pacted and just found a counterspell to counter the first one. And then maybe the next turn I Otawara. So here, this is, I think they have 1 Kaleem in their yard when they start doing this, so that's the 2nd Kaleem. So I'm going to, in response, cling one of the Kaleems. And my graveyard is down low enough that I can't cling immediately again. Or, well, when I have mana again, I'm still not going to be able to cling. I'm remembering what's about to happen, and it's not good. So I've kept the Otawara for a play just like this. So that's good. Then I top deck Mystical Dispute, which makes me decide to shock in a Blood Crypt so I can animate an attack and leave up Mystical Dispute, but then I just let the auto tapper tap on my blue mana, so I don't have access to Mystical Dispute. It's probably not going to matter, but maybe it will. And it actually does. They have Fairy Mastermind. So that was awful. I'm still in good shape to win, but I should have just, they should have died that turn. So they're leaving up their Hall of Storm Giants to try to trade with my Hall of Storm Giants, which is a terrible idea here because I'm just not going to attack and trade Hall of Storm Giants when I've got a mana advantage, and they need to be able to spend their mana on other things. I've got enough mana that I can do stuff and keep around 7 mana to use my Hall of Storm Giants. This is where taking all those lands all those turns ago in Sauron's Ransom really paid off. And also they just didn't draw very many lands this game. I think I'm considering just drawing cards with Archmage's Charm, or thinking if there's a way to Tainted Pact for something that's just going to kill them. And I decide that it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to win it. As long as I don't do anything terrible, I'm just going to win from this spot, so I don't spend a ton of time thinking about what Tainted Pact could do. Turns out I top deck Orcish Bowmasters, and this is very obviously going to be enough to kill them. All right, I saw Fairy Mastermind of that game, which makes me want to change my sideboarding a little bit. They also have all these Shieldred, so I want to leave things in that can kill Shieldred as well. I decided to board out my Shieldred with the idea that they're, like, they could kill it with that 6-mana Liliana. They probably have other cards that can kill it. And I just want to make my deck cheaper. And I also board in Negate just because it seems like they have expensive cards to target. I board out Censor because I'm a little bit worried about cycling it against a deck full of Bowmasters and Fairy Mastermind, which you can cycle it on their turn, which is what you would mostly do, but just having a whole bunch of things that are going to generate draw triggers that I have to work my way through is not something I'm really looking forward to. Pretty good hand. I should be able to use Inquisition to clear the way for one of these 3 drops to resolve. Their hand looks pretty weak, so I should be able to just resolve a 3-drop of my choice on turn 3. Or I guess I'm on the draw, so that's not going to work. But I took Jawari Ruins because I didn't want them to Jawari Ruins my 3-drop, or also have the option of just playing it as a land. I still feel like I'm in pretty good shape, though. But then it turns out I'm not, because they top-decked Orcish Bowmasters, so I'm going to be behind the Bowmasters. And this is a spot where the Dream Fracture is pretty annoying, because it means that if I start trying to work my way through their counters, if I play into a Dream Fracture, I'm going to... I just drew like the worst possible card when there's a Bowmasters in play. So if I play into Dream Fracture, whatever I play is going to get Dream Fractured. They're going to draw another card, and they're going to get a Bowmaster trigger. So it's going to speed up the clock as well. And then my opponent's going to have the option of just playing Shieldred when I'm tapped out, or just leaving up Archmage's Charm. Neither of which is very appealing. It's really annoying that I can't cycle through my Soul Guide Lantern or my Narset here. All right, so now I've drawn Change the Equation. It doesn't help me. Maybe should have cracked the Soul Guide Lantern there, because an untapped land would have been a pretty good draw. It turns out Thoughtseize was a good enough draw as well. I really just need to be able to play 2 spells in a turn. I went for the Narset because I thought they might counter it. They didn't. A target for Change the Equation. Unfortunately, it's probably going to get countered. And it does. So now I'm in really bad shape. But I'm not really sure why they played the Archmage's Charm over the Dream Fracture. I guess their thought process was that the Dream Fracture is better when the Fairy Mastermind is in play. Get to take their Dream Fracture, which is nice. Really wanted to make a land drop here, and I didn't think they were going to counter Impulse. So I have a tough choice here between Jace, which gives me the combo minus the 6th land I need for the turn, or the 6th land. I do also have Tainted Pact Laelia, although it seems like they should probably be able to block that. So now if they attack with everything, it's possible I can kill them. If I draw an untapped land, I can play Laelia, play the land, attack, and then Tainted Pact to a point that the Laelia is big enough to kill them, and I find a spell that kills Shieldred. I draw a tapped land, so that doesn't work. But might as well just give it a try. I don't think there's any way I can win from this spot if my opponent just blocks. They didn't block. That was how I won. That's the secret to ranking up on Arena. You just need your opponents to not block. I was worried when I was doing this that I was going to hit double Jace and not actually kill them, but I had impulsed to Jace to the bottom, so this was actually, once they didn't block, I was guaranteed to kill them. And that's what it takes to get to rank 1. All right, thanks for watching. Sorry about the little bit weird audio on the last game, not matching the video. I had kind of given up on getting to rank 1, but decided to give it one more match, and it worked out. See you next time.